There was a dark orb flying through her apartment. At first, she thought it was the shadow of a bird, but it swooped through the room and toppled over a pile of crates. She told it, under no uncertain terms, "You are not welcome here." I'm Beth Ann Campbell, and this is Something Weird Happened Here. Welcome to Something Weird Happened Here, the podcast for people who love a twisted tale but aren't afraid to poke at it a bit. We share stories that are postmarked peculiar and then explore the story with curiosity and an open mind. Stay tuned after the show to find out how to submit your strange saga, and maybe we or you will share it on air. Now let's get started, because no matter where you are in this mysterious world, something weird happened here. This tale is postmarked Vienna, Austria. Subject line: Black Orbs, Hotel Hauntings, and Clairsentience. Today we're talking with my friend Tania, who's had multiple paranormal experiences. She's a neurodivergent clairsentient, which means she senses energies, positive or negative. This is part one of a two-part episode. Tania, welcome to Something Weird Happened Here. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk to you because when we talked before, there were so many things. I had so many questions, and there were so many things that I know we didn't even talk about. But because this is Something Weird Happened Here, I would love to start with you told me a great story about a black orb. Can you tell me that story again? Because it's just I've never heard of a black orb, and this is why it's fascinating. So tell me what happened.
Ooh, but there are so many videos about black orbs on YouTube.
I'm intrigued. Tell me about your black orb.
So back then, I have lived in another apartment. It was a brand new, big, beautiful building. I think I was the first or second to move into this apartment. It was really new, really pretty, beautiful. A lot of sunlight came in, so the vibe of the entire apartment was really good. But I have to admit, the neighborhood was not so good because this was right next to a tube station, and I live in a town with 2 million people, so it is a dangerous big city.
Yeah.
And right at this tube station where my house was next to, a lot of ugly things happened.
Mm,
Let's say it like this. But that's normal for a big city. Okay,
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
wasn't afraid when I moved in, and I realized, okay, one day it was bright as day, so it was not like in the night or something. It was like maybe 10 or 11 in the forenoon, and I was standing at basically in the living room, and to the left of me was a doorway which went towards basically towards the toilet and the bathroom and everything. And to my right was the door to the balcony. And I saw on the top of the door of the balcony, like in about 2 meters high, at close to the ceiling, I saw a black orb, and I was like, what's this? And I thought it's a shadow of something,
Yeah.
maybe a shadow from the outside from a bird or something.
Yeah.
But then when I saw it, it registered that I see it. And then obviously somehow it started to panic because then this orb, which was about like that big, like maybe 25
That's
centimeters
pretty
in
big.
diameter, and it rushed down extremely fast. It passed my eyes like this, and I was watching it pass, like, what's happening? And then it ran into the toilet and threw something down really violently. Actually, that was something that shouldn't have been moved because it was heavy.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of carton boxes which were still together with a bend. So it was
Yeah.
very compact and very heavy. So if you try to lift it, it's like 6 kilogram or something, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was there, it was leaning against the wall. So normally nothing should have happened to it. But in the moment when this black orb passed it, whoosh, it fell down. And like really as if somebody was, tearing it down, not
Wow.
just like falling.
I mean, that takes a lot of energy for anything, if this was assuming it was paranormal, I mean, that's a lot of energy to actually not only move something, but like topple it over. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
Yes, and I've seen that in countless videos online. I mean, I watch a lot of these, videos that there are, and there are a lot of these cases. I mean, I have only witnessed that once in my entire life, but some people have that in their home permanently, and they keep filming it. So I was glad that I only
It would
saw it
get rid of
once because
that.
it's not a very pleasant experience. But my best guess is that this is a very contracted form of negative energy. So, for example, when a lot of people sit together and they talk badly about you and they wish bad things on you and they do that repeatedly over and over again, I think that is basically pure black magic. And this has an extreme effect on people's energy. It has an effect on you. It has an effect on others. Just like the other way around, prayer. If a lot of people pray together for a person to become whole when they are in the hospital, this will also have a positive effect on them.
Yeah,
This,
sure. I mean, it's basically mass manifestation, right? Everybody's putting the right energy focused on something. I mean, forget it's not even religious. It's energy and manifestation. So
exactly.
I'm very curious. Well, first of all, I have to say, I love whenever I talk to people like yourself who have experience things and you yourself will talk about it in a minute that you're clairsentient, that you have some abilities outside of the conventional senses that most of us have. I love that almost without question you all the first thing that comes out of your head is, well, how can I logically explain this? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, especially if you don't embrace the woo and you don't embrace things that you don't understand, they are very quick to dismiss this. And I love pointing out that you all try to dismiss it too. You're saying it's got to be a shadow. It's a bird. It's something, right? And then only when you reject all of the logical explanations and then you experience further, then you go, this is not typical. So I just love that about you and about people that you do try to seek. You're just looking for the truth.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
I would say that there are three things that made me think that must be something else. Number one, why did it stay still until that moment that I saw it and then it started to move? That's
It's
the
very
first thing
quantum.
that's very weird. Second
Yeah.
thing is that it moved something, that it let something fall down when it passed. So that is the second thing where I think, okay, this cannot be a shadow, right?
Shadow. Yeah.
Because otherwise, I would have just said, okay, it's a bird flying by outside, and that's why a black shadow is moving,
Yeah.
it's normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But these two things were basically like it felt as if this thing didn't want me to see it. And as soon as I saw it, it was going like, oh shit, she saw me. Now I have to run.
That is weird. Like almost like it was aware. So you said you have watched a lot of videos on this. I admit I have never even was never even aware of black orbs or that they would be different. What is the general consensus when you watch these videos? Is this negative energy?
That depends because negative energy can come from either yourself, your own house, like you had big fights in your family,
Yeah.
you go through a divorce, somebody that maybe passed to the other side, and then there is a lot of grief. So these are the things that can happen in your own home, which can create a lot of negative energy. But then there is also this other form of negative energy that comes from other people who target you. So there are several explications for it on the spiritual side. Another problem could be that maybe your house is haunted by something that is negative. That could either be a person which is in spirit that has passed and that thinks, hey, this is my house and you should go out because you have nothing to do here. And it could also be, in the worst case, but which I think is very rare, it could be a demon. But that is really very, very rare.
Is it possible, do you think, so you talked about it could be coming from yourself or it could be somebody targeting you. Could it also be something residual from external? Like you talked about you lived in kind of a little bit of a dangerous, city area that there could be things had happened. Could that be just something that was randomly not targeted to you, but just there, or did that not is that
Yes.
not what it felt like to you?
But normally these residual hauntings are audible. So there are a lot of places in the world where when you pass a certain place with your car, everybody who goes there hears an ambulance, and it's an like an old ambulance
Yeah.
sound from the 1920s because there was an accident there. That's a typical residual thing that's mostly auditory. Or when you go to a house where a very brutal murder happened, you will hear those same scenes repeating themselves. So that's mostly auditive when it's these kind of residual things. But I mean, in every house that you live in, somebody must have passed in that house, especially if the house is old, right? So a lot of people have lived there. A lot of people had emotions there, and most people they do not really take care of the cleansing of the house.
Yeah.
So for hundreds and hundreds of years, nobody took care. Nobody ever went through and saged the house. Nobody blessed the house with a priest or whatever. So
Yeah.
people don't do hygiene. They don't do spiritual hygiene, and then they wonder why there are ghosts in the house.
I love that word. Yeah, I mean, and it can be for folks out there if you're experiencing something, it can also be visual. I've had many heard of many stories. One of our previous guests talked about her first investigation where there was a man just going up and down the stairs. And sometimes you will see maybe just a light. So it can be visual too. But I think what I meant more was residuals probably was not the right word, but that it was not necessarily targeted towards you or from you, that maybe it could have been something, like you talked about, like, the neighbors, sometimes the neighbors, would be fight or could be fighting, or we talked about it last time. And I just wondered if that could have been something too, like where it just happened to come through your place, but it wasn't targeted towards you or originating from you. You just happened to be sensitive enough to see it, whatever it was. I mean,
That is 100% a possibility,
yeah,
especially because it only happened once and then it was gone because I told it to go. I said, get out of my house and never come back. You are not welcome here. To be assertive and
yeah,
to defend your own home, your own
yeah.
ground is important.
It's so
And
important.
these beings, they get it. And so I think even if it wasn't directed to me, even if it was just
Yeah.
passing through, it never came back, and I'm sure it understood me when I said that.
Now, did you use any swear words when you told it to get out? Because I thought you had mentioned that maybe perhaps you were pretty direct with this, weren't you?
Yeah, why not? I mean, that can happen. Yeah.
Did you feel the negativity, or was it just this is something
No,
happening? No?
no, the energy of my home was always good because I always did yoga. I always took care of the spiritual hygiene. I always did things that like saging the house or using Palo Santo around my own aura. All of these things, taking a salt bath. I take care of the whole thing. I also speak words that bless the house, that make the house a home, yeah, basically. And so these kind of things, they don't have much of an effect on me. So it was nothing that made me afraid, nothing where I felt dark, but I did feel that it was not something nice and friendly. It was not the
Yeah.
nice little spirit from the neighborhood.
Yeah. Just popping in to say hello. As somebody who I am not sensitive in any capacity, at least that I've developed so far, but every house that I move in, if I'm ever doing anything, renovation, building something, even painting, I will always just give a little, "Hey, I'm just painting. You're still welcome here. You don't worry. I like to reassure the spirits if there are any lurking that I'm not wrecking your house or anything like that." And so far it's worked out pretty well. So we when I was ghost hunting, we always encouraged people. You made a great point about taking ownership. This is your domain, your place that you live, and that you should always, be confident about your ownership of that. And sometimes you have to maybe seek help to get rid of things, but we would recommend sage cleansings. In fact, we would sage ourselves after every investigation just to kind of cleanse, and so that when we left, we were, leaving with only that good energy. So That's a great point.
Yeah, and I also think it's important the question, who do you address? Because I don't speak to just about anybody, because then
Yeah.
I invite just about anybody, and I don't do that.
Yeah.
So I say things like, my guardian angel is very welcome here. My ancestors who protect me are very welcome here. But if I, let's say, am at a cemetery, when I go out, I say, none of you follow me home. Yeah, none of you have the right to
Yes.
follow me home. So,
Yeah.
because this is a bunch of strangers and I
Yeah.
don't want to have them.
And you don't
So,
know which ones you're going to get, right? It might be the
yeah,
sweet old grandma or it might be the serial killer. We just you just don't know, right?
it's most likely the serial killer because
Yeah.
the sweet old lady doesn't need you or
Yeah.
attention from you or anything, but the other one does.
Yeah. I'm just curious, you made me think of something about, the fact that there's a lot of belief that objects can also carry or attract spirits. Have you ever had any, is that something that you would believe? Like if I go to an antique store and I could bring home an antique that might be carry a have some attraction, whether residual or a sentient spirit, might have something. And have you ever had that experience where you thought something was tied to a thing?
Personally, I never had anything like that because I do believe in what you say, and that's why I do not buy stuff from the thrift store. But if you bring stuff home like that, of course, you should do the spiritual hygiene thing again with the sage and whatever. But some of the items, there are not many, it's a few. But even the sage won't help you with them because
Yeah.
if there is something extremely negative attached to it, then the only place where it can go is maybe that collection of the, how is that couple called that
Yeah.
is already, you know who I mean.
No, now I gotta look it up. I'll have to edit this out. Ed and Lorraine Warren. The
Exactly. Ed and
Warrens, yeah.
Lorraine
Ed
Warren.
and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
Yes. I knew it would be obvious when it came. So Tanya, you are clairsentient. You told me when we talked earlier. Can you explain what that is? Because I know there are different clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. Can you explain a little bit what that means to you from your perspective?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say I do not see myself as a medium at all. Not at all. Because number one, nobody has ever asked me to get in contact with somebody who has deceased. So I'm not doing that as a job. Number two, nobody is on the other side who I so desperately need to get in contact with
Right.
that I would try. So it's not my job to be a medium. But being clairsentient just means for me that I can sense and feel things that others might miss. Yeah. And that is one thing that is typical for people who are neurodivergent, who are autistic or have ADHD. We miss a lot of things that other people see and hear, but also we get a lot of things that other people miss.
Fascinating.
So we are filling a gap, you know.
Yeah.
And in the ancient times, they called us the seers, the mystics, the wise old woman, the shaman. They gave us a bunch of names, the magician, the alchemist, whatever. That was always the highly sensitive one. That was always the one who is neurodivergent, as we would say today,
Yeah.
or highly sensitive. And so I can just enter a room and feel that there's something off or that something in the past happened here that wasn't too good. So, I get out of the room again because I think like, nah. And sometimes it's also with people. When I sit next to people who have something going on, then I can feel this sometimes.
You just answered like two of my questions. Like, how is it manifest? And I was going to ask you, do you sense living energies as well as, or things in living people as well as other things? And I guess maybe to even expand upon that, do you ever sense things that are perhaps not even human or other dimensional, or is it more things about
Well,
the past and
I would say the best thing is to explain you that with the experiences that I've had.
yeah.
There are positive ones and negative ones. So which one would you like to hear first?
I would love to hear if you could give me an example of both, that would be great. I think that will
So
help to illustrate.
my most negative experience was when I went to the UK. And the UK, notoriously is haunted because the buildings there are so old and there is so much history, and so many people have done, things like they pack out a Ouija board and stuff like that. So all of this stuff is happening without any spiritual hygiene. This is often done by people who have no idea what they are messing with,
Yeah.
basically. And they are often very impolite. They make ghost hunting or something, and then they go in there and very impolite, very dismissive to the spirits there, and that's nobody would
Provoke,
like
yeah.
that. It
We
doesn't
ran
matter if
into
you're alive or
I've seen
doesn't
them on
matter
some
if
of the
you're alive or dead.
shows. They're very provoke. They like to provoke is
Yes,
one of
and
the
I
things.
don't like
Yeah.
that at all. And
Mhm.
if these places are there and you come in there as a clairsentient, then this means nothing well for you. So I entered a hotel in the UK, and this hotel was 800 years old. And unfortunately, I didn't do the work before. I didn't, do research online about this hotel. I just went to the first thing that I found online, like booking.com, and that's it. And then I went there, and then the first thing I hear is like, "Oh, hi, are you also here for the ghosts?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" So I thought, oh no, this is not going to be good.
Well, even
So
even with when, especially if something has a reputation, that brings a whole other energy of people just wanting to, I don't know, have something to tell their friends and it's not sincere. So now you've got all this energy of people like, I'm gonna see a ghost and ugh.
yes, but I believe that the staff, I asked the staff, okay, what happened? And they said, well, the faucets are turning on and off by themselves and stuff like that. So the typical stuff you hear about a haunted place. So I was like, okay, well, let's see if I can do it. If not, then I have to go anyway. So, and then there were 3 nights in a row. And I think that also has something to do with the people I've met there, but that's another story. So in the first night, I left my little lamp on the bedside on because I don't like to, in a place where you don't know, you leave your bedside table light on. And especially because my room was called the nun's cell. So this is not very nice. You think of the movie The Nun immediately,
Yeah.
with this haunting and everything. So I am in there, and it's a very teeny tiny room, like a box. Already you feel trapped like a
Yeah.
mouse. And then I left my light on, but exactly at midnight, bang, the light bulb was going out. So I thought, well, that's not good. So the first night was okay. Second night, I went to the reception. I said, "Can you please exchange the bulb?" She gave me a new one. I actually put it in myself and left it on at night. And again, at midnight, bang, out again. So I thought, okay, this is starting to get a bit weird. And the third night was the worst. The third night was the one I said, okay, thank you. I was going to bed, left the light on, but of course, at midnight again, the lights went out. And then it started to be like, do you know these movies like Pirates of the Caribbean? And can you imagine a scene where you are inside of one of these boats, and one of these boats that goes through a storm? So it's moving and the wood is cracking, and you hear that wood cracking, and you are in the belly of this ship. And you're basically, a little bit, the feeling was a little bit as if you were a slave, as if you were a slave that's being
Oh.
transported, like being very, very abused and trapped and not feeling to not get out of there. And then the sounds grew extremely loud. So I heard these wood cracking, and it felt as if everything would get smaller, as if the walls would come to you of that crackling wood around you, as if it was getting smaller and smaller and tried to crush you. That was the feeling that you had in there. So I said, okay, well, we have to sit this out. I will definitely not do anything. I will definitely not move or open my eyes or anything. I will just sit this one out, I said to myself, because that was really the most creepy situation I've ever been in. And I said, okay, let's wait because the morning is coming, right? So in the morning, first thing I did, and you have to think that all of the stuff is out of the hotel at night because nobody wants to stay there because it's super creepy. Yeah. So the next morning, as soon as the staff was there, I said, okay, guys, I'm sorry, but I have to leave. And I don't only have to leave the hotel, I have to leave the entire island. So I took a cab from this hotel to the airport and I was off. And I said, the UK, I'm done with the UK. Okay, for the rest of my life, I'm done with the UK. And it's not the people, the living are super nice, but with the rest of them, the dead, no, thank you.
Wow.
And I mean, this was in Glastonbury. You know what
Yeah.
Glastonbury is, you know that it has an extreme tradition. And I have to say, there is something positive about Glastonbury too, which is that place where King Arthur is supposed to have been buried once. That place, this old cathedral, the ruin of the cathedral, that has an extremely positive energy. Okay, I recommend you to go there if you're ever there. Go to that castle ruin where his grave is, because that was one of the most positive energies I've ever felt on Earth. But everything around it seems to be a bit compromised by the things we were talking about at the start.
Were you at any point trying to reconcile how in this static hotel, 800 years old, built into earth and ground, was somehow channeling this um, ship experience? Um,
Well, I mean, as this was used to be a castle, and throughout history there was something like slavery. The English have colonialized, just like all the other European states have colonialized and done things like that. So it might have been that somebody was transported from Africa or from anywhere to the UK and then used as a slave in that castle. Whatever, I don't know.
that makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
so it could have been anything, yeah. Um, but what I have to say is that Glastonbury is supposed to be on a ley line. That's what they told me. That is a very important point where the ley lines are crossing or something.
Yeah.
So there is something about this place as well, which is also why they have built the Glastonbury Tor. Do you know that?
Mm-mm.
Glastonbury Tor. This is, there is a hillside, and on this hill there is a tor, like a square tower. And this is a very interesting site. If you Google it, you can see it. And there have been a lot of things going on there, but definitely this is a site, Glastonbury, where a lot of energy is collected, both positive and negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has
So
such a history and a history of so much violence as well. I mean, there's a lot of, exchange of power over millennia. So I'm not, and like you said, it's so old as well. Was the King Arthur, was that your positive experience, or did you have a different experience of the positive
well,
manifestations of your clairsentience?
the King Arthur thing is like this. You have to imagine there is only the ruins of this cathedral, and the rest is grass because there is only grass. It's like a park, and you can sit anywhere in this park. And I've tried it out myself. I've put my bare feet into the grass and then close my eyes and then just start anywhere and start walking. Start walking anywhere. And wait until you really feel now it's the right time to open my eyes. You should try that out because to me, it was fascinating that I was walking, in circles, left and right, anywhere. And when I had the feeling it's good to open my eyes now, I opened them and I stood right exactly at the place where it said here was King Arthur's grave. So this is definitely an energy attraction point. And I say to everyone out there, try it. Try it for yourself. Go there, put your bare feet into the grass anywhere in that garden, walk around and see where you open your eyes.
Why do you think that there is that positivity there when even the legend of King Arthur has a lot of violence in it? So I'm just I wonder what it would be, what it in your if you were to guess, what would your reason be that
Well, the thing is that I do not know history well enough to give you a historic answer to that. I haven't been there. I do not know, was this a good person? Was this an evil person? What did they do? I have no idea. I just know that there is positive energy there, and it was, like very godly energy, like very, very divine, as if like from Mother Mary, if a
yeah.
very warm, loving energy was there. So the complete contrast to what I felt like a few hundred meters next to that place was the hotel, and it's completely different energy, you know?
Thanks for listening to part one of Black Orbs, Hotel Hauntings, and Clairsentience with Tanya on Something Weird Happened Here. We'll be back with part two in the next episode, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted when it drops. Thanks for joining this episode of Something Weird Happened Here. If you have a twisted tale that you witnessed, experienced, or heard from a reliable source, go to bethanecampbell.com/somethingweird to learn more and submit your story. If your tale is twisted enough, we'll share it on air during one of our episodes and might even invite you to be a guest on the show. And we're not picky. Your Something Weird Happened Here could be paranormal, psychic, UFOs, near-death experiences, dreams, parallel dimensions, Bigfoot, chupacabra, or any other weird and unexplained phenomena. We don't discriminate. If you're into paranormal mysteries that are scary, fun, and realistic, pick up a copy of my latest book, The R.I.P. Files, Case of the Demon Drums, the first in a series inspired by real cases that I, Bethane Campbell, worked on when I was a ghost hunter for nearly a decade. Case of the Demon Drums is available on Amazon and most online bookstores. And finally, we would so appreciate it if you would rate and review us on your favorite streaming platform and/or on YouTube. Thanks again, and remember, stay skeptical, but don't run towards the noise.